What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of When Real Estate Gets Real. I'm Jake, and today what I wanted to do was give you a quick tutorial about how to do a detailed analysis for you to make an informed decision about do you rent or do you buy the next time you make a move. And it's perfect timing because a lot of my military friends I know are planning a move sometime in the next summer. Though they don't know where they're going yet, they're all trying to figure out, are they going to be able to capitalize on these historically low interest rates and buy instead of renting? And so what I wanted to do is kind of give you a detailed breakdown about how to do an analysis specific to your market to figure out if that's the decision that makes the most financial sense for you and for your family. So that's what we're going to do today. And what the numbers that I'm going to use here are specific to Stafford, Virginia, but the analysis is the same. So what you want to do is figure out these details for your specific market. And the best way to do that is by reaching out to a local expert. And the details that you want to find out are what are the average sales price. So for here in Stafford, Virginia, the average sales price is $400,000. The next number that you want to figure out is what is the rent price to rent a similar style house. And here in Stafford, to rent a single family house, the average rent would be about $2,100. Your mortgage rates today is about 2.5%. Now that may change between now and the summer, and that would obviously affect the numbers here, but for today, we're gonna use 2.5%. The next factor the next number that you wanna grab is what is the appreciation rate for your specific market? And so the national average is about 3 to 4%. But why it's so important to grab your hyper local, the local numbers for your market, is because here in Stafford, it's more like 5 to 7%, which is obviously going to impact how the numbers work out in your favor. So now that we know these numbers, we can go into the analysis. And the first thing that we want to do is figure out how much we are going to spend over, let's say, a 3-year period. And why a 3-year period is because most of my military friends are going to be on 3-year orders, right? And so at the end of that 3-year period, they're going to be faced with another decision. If they buy the house, they're going to have to decide, do they sell it or do they turn it into a rental property? And that's a whole nother video for a whole nother time. But for today, what we're going to assume is that at the end of the 3-year period, you're going to sell the house and you're going to take whatever equity that you have in the house out and you're going to put it towards something else. So over the 3-year period, what are you going to spend for owning and what are you going to spend for renting? Renting's the easiest one to determine, so we're going to figure that out. So if your average rent is $2,100 for 36 months, that's going to get you to $75,000 roughly. That's what it's going to cost you to rent. And that money's gone. It goes to your landlord and you never see it again, right? The next number that we want to figure out is if we bought, how much money are we going to spend over a 3-year period? And the largest cost that's going to go into that is your mortgage. And so let's assume you're doing a VA loan at 2.5%, 30-year fixed mortgage. And let's assume that you roll in your VA funding fee. So your actual mortgage amount would be $409 some odd thousand. So principal and interest on that would be $1,580 a month, which looks great compared to $2,100 a month in rent, but there are other costs associated with owning a house. For example, taxes, about $233 a month. Insurance, about $100 a month. HOA, another $100 a month. And another cost that a lot of people don't factor into this decision is maintenance. And so people plan to spend about 1% of your home's value in maintenance over the course of the year. So on a $400,000 house, that means you need to plan to spend about $4,000 a year on your home. So on a monthly basis, that turns out to be about $300 a month. So in total, your monthly cost for owning is about $2,300. And so now when you're comparing $2,300 a month to own versus $2,100 to rent, it starts to look like maybe it does make more sense to rent. But let's continue the analysis. All right, so you're going to spend $2,300 a month to own, but you've got another cost that you want to factor in here, and that's closing cost up front. Now, sometimes you can get your seller to pay for your closing cost, but that's not always the case, especially in today's market. So let's plan to spend $6,000 up front to get into your house, and then $2,300 a month. So that means over a 3-year period, you're going to spend about $89,000. And And when you're comparing $89,000 to $75,000, again, it starts to look like it makes more sense to rent. But what you're not factoring in yet is you own an asset. You own this house and you're paying down the principal. And at the end of it, you're going to be able to sell that asset for some amount of money. And you're going to be able to pull out your equity that's going to reduce this $89,000. And let's look at those numbers. So first, let's figure out your mortgage. So you've got a mortgage for $409,000. You got it and you're slowly paying on it every month. And so at the end of that 3-year period, the amount that you owe on the house is $384,000. So the next big question is, what is my home worth? So you know your house started at $400,000 and you know that the national average appreciation rate is about 3%. So if you take your $400,000 house and each year it grows by 3%, at the end of that 3-year period, your house is going to be worth $437,000. And so you're like, okay, well, $437,000, I only owe $384,000. I'm looking like I'm in a pretty good spot. But one of the biggest costs to owning a house, at least when you sell it, is the fact that you're going to pay about 10% in closing costs and commissions. So after you pay that 10%, you walk away with about $393,000. So you subtract that from the amount that, or you subtract the amount that you owe on the house from the amount that you get at closing, and what you end up with is you're going to walk away with a check for $9,000. Okay, so we know that you spent $89,000 over the course of a 3-year period. When you sell the house, you're going to get a check for $9,000. So now you're looking at about $80,000 to own instead of rent. But the other cost that a lot of people don't factor into the analysis is your tax savings. So over the course of this 3-year period, you're going to spend about $30,000 in interest. What you're able to do, because you own the house, is deduct that from your taxable income. So that turns into a tax savings of about $6,000 less over this 3-year period that you're going to pay towards taxes. So that's another $6,000 that you save. So over the course of the 3-year period, now you're looking at $74,000 is your real cost of owning this home. So if you're comparing 74 to 75, it starts to look like it makes a little bit more sense to own instead of rent, although the numbers are close. But this is why it's so important to understand what the appreciation rate is for your specific market, because here in Virginia, Stafford specifically, it's more like 5 to 7%. So if we take that $400,000 house and it grows at an appreciation rate of 5% each year, at the end of that 3-year period, it's worth $463,000. So again, minus the 10% that you pay at closing, your home, you would get a check for about $416,000. So you've got $416,000. You pay off your mortgage of $384,000. You would get a check for $33,000. Again, you paid $89,000 over the course of the 3-year period. You get a check for $33,000 when you sell the house. You get $6,000 in tax savings. And so at the end of it, you're looking at $50,000 is your cost of owning the house over a 3-year period. So you're comparing $50,000 to own versus $75,000 to rent. And so when you start to look at these numbers, it starts to make a lot more sense, at least in this market where we are today. You should probably buy versus rent. And all of this is going to be very, very specific to your market where you're moving. And that's why it's very important that you understand these numbers going into it. What is the average sales price of that type of house that you're looking at? What is the rent for a similar style house? What's your mortgage rate that you're going to be able to get on the home? And one of the most important is, what is the appreciation rate for that style house in your specific market? For example, townhouses and condos appreciate at a different rate than single-family detached houses. So you really want to find an expert and ask them for that market, what's the appreciation rate for the type of house that you're looking at? I hope this walkthrough helps you make an informed decision as you're planning your next move. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys on the next episode.